Welcome back, everybody. Episode 21. We have breached the 20s. Sinan Schwarting is here to do so, live from New York City. And of course, the co-host from Belgium, Kaan Bayazit. What do you have to say, sir?
Good morning in my case.
Actually, in mine too now.
Yeah,
we've gone straight
very
to
true. So we're a little bit later than we are usually with our post-match recording. We tried to do it right after the game, but today it just wasn't very prudent for us. So today we're a little bit later with our post-match recording. But Beşiktaş played Partizan Belgrade great yesterday in Europe, of course. So shall we dig right into it, Sinan, or do you have any introductory stuff to talk about before we get going?
I don't have anything about the match in and of itself. All I will say on the technical end, to break down the fourth wall slightly as an intro here, a partial subconscious element of my pushing off the whole match review was hoping we'd even have some exciting news, Karius sighting in an airport or something. But so I have stayed up through the night. It is now 5 a.m. here in New York City, waiting for news, literally like glued to my phone. So if Fikret Orman is listening or anyone on the board, middle fingers out to you. And for the rest of you guys, bear with me because I'm exhausted. So let's hope this goes smoothly.
Well, let's give
and the within that there is that is to say that there is no news to report in that regard either. So all of that was for nothing.
Well, let's give people a quick update on the situation, because you touched briefly on in our previous episode, which was our Partizan preview, which I have to say I've gotten a lot of good reactions to. Mm-hmm. People clearly seem to like a female voice on the podcast.
We need that female voice.
Especially such an informed female voice. I just want to give a shout out to Sonia again for a very fun conversation. Mm-hmm. I think it was one of our best interviews thus far. And I've liked all our interviews, really. I don't think we've really had a stinker so far, but I think Sonia was great. Was a great guest. She had some great insights, some very fun stories. I really enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully we'll be having another conversation coming up soon regarding, of course, Loris Karius. And let's give people a really quick update on that. I know we usually talk about the transfer stuff after we talk about the match, but just a quick update in regards to the Loris Karius situation. So, and
because there's not much to report, so let's not. Let's not put anyone in suspense over the news here. Yeah, lay it on us.
Damn trucks driving by. So basically, I think people have kind of been wondering, hey, what's the hold up here? And the Mirror in the UK, who basically initially broke the Karius news, and I think I questioned whether the reliability of the Mirror, but I think they broke the news, so they deserve some props. And the Liverpool Echo, which is quite reliable actually, I think they broke this news. They said basically the Loris Karius to Beşiktaş move is still on. It got delayed because of the festivities in Turkey right now, because there's a national holiday going on in Turkey right now. But he will probably be traveling to Istanbul, to Turkey in the next 24 hours. That's something that got put out yesterday. Simple deduction would tell us that Loris Karius is supposed to come to Turkey today. And then the Mirror went on that. James Maddock, I believe his name is. Or something Maddock, whatever. He basically said, Loris Karius is going to Turkey tomorrow. So supposedly, by the time you listen to this, he might very well already have arrived in Turkey. I don't know, because it'll depend, because Sinan is tired, so this episode might be out a little bit late. But I do have to say that at the time of this recording, which is almost noon, it's just noon in Turkey, because it's 11 for me here. There is no news yet of anything regarding his estimated time of arrival or anything like that. And usually that comes out quite a little few hours beforehand. So at the moment, there isn't any news yet on when Karius is expected to arrive in Istanbul in Turkey. So that's basically just the quick heads up wanted to give you. And hopefully by the time you listen to this, it won't be completely dated.
Right. And to be clear, my silence is not because I have fallen asleep in the background. I'm actually still, like, I'm on my phone refreshing. the hashtag Beşiktaş on Twitter, just hoping that, we might get something to talk about a little extra here. But okay, you know what? Forget it. I'm putting down my phone. Won't be distracted. Let's be professional here.
Put the phone down.
Exactly, yeah. And in general, like, that's something that one needs to incorporate into their lives in general. But let's focus. There is a lot to talk about, regardless of the lack of a Karius sighting and all the others. We do have a match that was played that was of great significance to our entire season, and it was a match that has garnered, in my opinion, almost nonsensical reactions on either side of the spectrum, and there's, I think, a lot to discuss within that. Just to sort of explain what I mean by that, you have folks who are like celebrating an away goal and a 1-1 draw as if this was a grand victory for us, and I think that's absurd. And on the other hand, and I think more commonly, you have people treating this as if it was a loss, and like we're who are allowing this to, they're smashing the panic button rapidly at this point, and I think conversely that's also not at all rational, because we do have an away goal and we're going into our match at the Vodafone Park where we've never lost in nearly 50 matches.
Except for Bayern.
I don't even, whatever. Except for Bayern. Except for Bayern and a weird red card and whatever. But forgetting all that for a moment, point being, we, like, rationally speaking, on all accounts, we are still in a very good position to be moving through with that result. So I'm just here to say that we need to moderate the extremes. In the words of the wise Obi-Wan Kenobi, only a Sith deals in absolutes. And let's not be Sith, right? Because, the hell? Who are we trying to be here? So yeah, don't go to the extremes, guys. This is not a time to panic, and this is not a time to celebrate. We are in the midst of a mini crisis in that we have a board that is lazily approaching the deadline, but we are not about to become a 12th placed team in the Super League or whatever the hell the other side is. So on that note, Kaan, run us through the match. Ding ding.
Okay, so basically yesterday evening at the Partizan Stadium in Belgrade, Beşiktaş played to a 1-1 draw, as Sinan already said. Partizan opened the scoring in the 14th minute through the Portuguese striker Ricardo Gomes, but Beşiktaş immediately responded with a goal of their own in the 15th minute, with Tolgay Aslan finishing off a really nice Ricardo Quaresma cross and heading the goal away. I think that's his first European goal since his goal against Liverpool. Then basically the hosts got a bunch of yellow cards in the first half. They got 3 yellow cards in the first half. I think they could have gotten a red card even. They seemed very undisciplined, not really knowing how to stop our players without falling. And then Beşiktaş, I think, played well after the first opening 15 minutes in the first half, and I think they could have scored another goal. Kyle Larin came close with a header on the 40th minute, but all in all, not too much going on in the first half. Second half, Partizan came very lively out of the gates. First 10 minutes, they looked good. Had a couple of attempts, one good chance, I think, through their left back, Nemanja Miletic, who was already in a yellow card. He had a shot go wide, and then they had a couple of attempts from distance and stuff like that. But honestly, after that 10-minute storm in both the first and the second half, Partizan looked very underwhelming. Beşiktaş controlled the rest of the game, as they did most of the first half as well. And it took quite a while before Sinan Güneş started making any changes. I think it was in the 74th minute where we made our first change. But all in all, Beşiktaş finished the match 1-1, which they got their away goal. And I think most importantly, what we saw is that Partizan really, I think we went into this game a little fearful. I feel comfortable saying that Lask was a stronger opponent than this Partizan side. I don't think these guys should cause us any problems at Vodafone Park. Saw some comments on Twitter from Serbians like, "Oh, this Beşiktaş is beatable. They weren't that good and all that stuff."
Which is fair enough.
Yeah, I get. Which is fair enough. I mean, but we were lacking several players. And honestly, in this match, Beşiktaş never kicked into anything higher than second gear.
Yes.
They did not force Beşiktaş to play at a high level in this match. Against Erzurum, at least Erzurum forced us to kick it into a higher gear in the second half to overcome them.
Yeah.
But I really had the feeling here Beşiktaş were satisfied with a draw, were satisfied with their away goal, and didn't feel the need to waste a lot of energy ahead of the weekend's game against Antalyaspor.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I actually even felt in a funny way that we kind of hit back too quickly, because it was like, oh, really? You're going to score? Fine. Like, we looked so comfortable in hitting back right off the get-go that at that point, I think that they got this kind of unfounded confidence. Like, see, look, as soon as we put in the minimal effort, we're going to score. So let's just, and that kind of gave them that mentality where they kind of breezed through the rest of the match, kind of not really, thinking it would be easier than it was, perhaps.
I really felt that because I think for a moment there we did kick it into like maybe second gear or something.
Right.
I don't know.
2.5.
Right after they scored, we upped it a little bit. We upped the pressure a little bit. We pushed them back so much, and I think for 20 minutes or so, Quaresma was really giving them a lot. No, actually, really pretty much the entire first half or the remainder of the entire first half, because they got a bunch of yellow cards within a time span of 6-7 minutes.
Yeah.
Just because they couldn't stop us. Really, and that was, if there's any Serbians listening to the podcast, that's not even because we were playing well. I just really think that they, I don't know, maybe like Sonia said, they showed a little bit too much respect, were a little bit too wary of us, I think, because yesterday we didn't show that much quality on the pitch, but it did feel as if if we really wanted to, we could have gone up and over them, and I kind of resent them for not doing that. I think that at least pushing for one more goal, getting a win here would make that second leg so much more unimportant. You have to keep in mind Partizan either have to win at Vodafone Park or have to score at least 2 goals and get a draw.
Yeah.
There's only 2 teams in 2.5 years or something in Europe that have succeeded to score more than 2 goals at Vodafone Park. That's Benfica, 3-3 draw, and it's Bayern Munich 1-3 win.
Yeah, do they really think that they're that level?
Anyone else scored maximum 1 goal. Napoli, Dynamo Kiev, Monaco,
Tottenham,
Porto,
Liverpool.
Oh no, we didn't play Tottenham. I'm talking purely Vodafone Park right now.
I thought.
So I'm not even counting those matches at Olympiad, but I mean, for them to go through, they're either going to have to win or they're going to have to score at least 2 goals and get a draw.
Yeah.
And I don't see either happening unless we put in a super stinker performance. But I think even given our negative performances this season already away from home, I think the Erzurum performance wasn't the best. I think the Lask performance wasn't the best. Even in Tórshavn, 2-0 win against semi-pros. Not too impressive. I think that our level at home is so much significantly different. I also had the feeling that if Babel would have played on the left wing instead of Caner,
he could have scored twice by accident.
He could have definitely scored because Caner had this one position where you could just see that he's a left back and that he doesn't have those instinct for really, going for the ball. I think it was a good Quaresma cross. It was in the second half even, which I didn't think we were too good in the second half. But
I was surprised at least maybe Gökhan Töre didn't get the call, but when he did,
he did.
No, but I mean as the starter. But then when he came in, he showed so much rust that I really was like, okay, I absolutely understand why he's not getting too much burn right now.
He didn't show anything, you know. I mean, I think people expected so much from him, but honestly, I mean, I think Janner has been on good form this season, so I understand it. On the other end, I mean, I think if you're going to be satisfied with a draw, I think Torre could have started the game or could have come in earlier. But all in all, you know, I really just felt like we never ever kicked into a higher gear. And I think that, you know, with all due respect, I think for the people, the Serbian fans who watch this game and think, oh, this Beşiktaş isn't as good as we thought they were, we're going to be able to beat them. I think if you were going to beat us, you should have done it at home. Your chances of beating Beşiktaş at Vodafone Park are slim to nil. You're going to need either a very poor performance on Beşiktaş's part, like an absolute, like the worst performance in history at Vodafone Park, for you to basically get a win there, or you're going to need a Craig Thompson.
Yeah, right. There you go. Well, and so what I wanted to add to your point was actually a differing take. Here we go again. 2 episodes in a row, Kaan. I don't know. This is going to become a debate program soon. I actually think that Partizan came into this match not at all intimidated by us. And in fact, perhaps they were coached to feel this way, but I actually think they came into the match assuming that they could kind of play a little bit dirty, play a little hard, you know, make some kind of nasty tackles that showed they weren't afraid of us. And that might actually kind of force us to, you know, sink back and play more fearfully or whatever it might be. And actually the opposite happened. We actually, I think, brought it, have that's not a very good journalistic habit. Beşiktaş really brought it back at them and showed the ability to play physically, which actually they started flopping and playing like. It was actually, I thought, a very kind of pathetic display from them in this regard, in that they came out trying to play this very physical game, being like, "Hey, we're not intimidated you by it all." But then as soon as we matched that physicality, they started flopping around and totally playing like a very kind of negative brand. And I have to say, I was very unimpressed by that footballing mentality, and more so, I didn't think it was very effective. I think we probably could have scored a couple more goals if we had, you know, a striker on form at the very least, or, you know, someone with more ability on a grander scale up front that could put some of those chances away. Larin had 2 chances, and I don't want to put too much on him because he actually showed some flair with them, like tried to chip the keeper, you know, unsuccessfully, which great, you know, you need confidence, and he has that. So, and he was in the right place at the right time. But, you know, Negredo would have put one of those away. I have a feeling, for example, or really any of the sort of strikers we've been linked with on the market of late. I don't want to get too much into that. But so, you know, my sense was that, you know, it wasn't an effective brand that Partizan brought, and it actually kind of, you know, it veered towards negative sort of anti-football at points, honestly. I didn't like it.
I just wasn't impressed. I think that I saw a lot more. Like I said, I think Lask was a lot better. I don't really know. I expected them, you know, I spoke to Sonia about this, and I expected them to come out of the gate and grab us by the throat and try to really dominate us. And they did have a good opening 10 minutes in both halves, but not to the extent that Lask did, in my opinion. I think Lask really did do that. They grabbed us by the throat. They pushed us back a little bit. Not. They didn't dominate us either, because they, like I said last week, you know, they kind of scored out of nowhere both goals, but they did show more hunger, I felt. And I don't know, you know, these Partizan did not impress me whatsoever, and I don't want to insult them or anything like that, but they really just weren't on Beşiktaş's level. And I know that, you know, if people are listening to this and you know they're Partizan fans, they're probably thinking, what are you talking about? You know, your level yesterday was like really not that great.
Not so good.
But
no, and it wasn't.
But
you'd be right to criticize our level. but you have to recognize that, like,
Babel,
we're right, probably in
Babel wasn't
criticizing
there,
yours.
It was arguably our biggest goal threat. Jermaine Lens, who wasn't there, who is our our on-form player right now. Negredo wasn't there. I think with Babel and Negredo up top, and even if you start Quaresma over Lens, I think this would have been an easy win for us. I don't think you can underestimate how big of a difference that makes, missing those two players. And then I'm not even talking about our midfield, because our midfield was Gary Medel, Najib, Tolgay. So basically, two defensive midfielders and a kind of a defensive midfielder. So it was like a very defensive.
Maybe even three.
It was not a good midfield. We didn't have any creativity in that midfield. I mean, a good Ozhan in that midfield. Instead of Najib, Negredo up top instead of
That's two chances that were not created with Ozan. No, and again, referring to the theoretical Serbian or Partizan fans that would be listening who aren't maybe so familiar with Beşiktaş or Turkish football in general, this was a very abnormal lineup for Beşiktaş. As Kaan alluded to, we were playing with three defensive midfielders, essentially.
And a left back on the left.
Maybe quasi. We had a left back on the left wing. This was not like, we had a guy who was effectively our
fourth striker last year. Yeah.
Last season, who's been thrust into the sort of quasi second role now. Yeah. Because of late, he's actually lost that to Negredo again, because we've maybe settled back on him or whatever that may be. But anyway, so the point being that for any Beşiktaş outsider, that was hardly a typical lineup. That was a first for our team, for that unit, and you should not take too much solace from that result.
Yeah. Home. I think that Partizan probably fielded their strongest team. I don't know if they had any absent players, but Beşiktaş had a bunch. I think the general feeling was I didn't really share this feeling, but a lot of our fans felt like we were going to lose this match. They really, the general consensus was, with this lineup, there's no chance. We're losing this match for sure. It'll be a wonder if we get a draw. And honestly, after the match, looking back at it, I felt like it's a shame we didn't, up the pressure a little bit, because we could have easily gotten the win here. That's just, I expected a lot more from Partizan. That's all I'm gonna say. I feel like I keep going around in circles a little bit on this. That's honestly how I felt. I was very unimpressed. I don't think this team should pose any problem for Beşiktaş at Vodafone Park if they play the way they did yesterday. Of course, if they manage to switch it to a higher gear and come at us and show some balls and defend well, then they can obviously cause us troubles. I think any team can cause any team problems if they have the right motivation, the right concentration, and tactical preparation for a match. I honestly believe it, unless, of course, you're going down the semi-pro level of Torshavn, with all due respect. But a professional team like Partizan, a professional team like Lask, who I think quality-wise are probably very comparable, but I think in terms of football they managed to put on the pitch, Lask was very much more impressive to me. And I don't knock Partizan for that, because they did just change their coach. It takes a while before a coach can implement his way of thinking into a team. So maybe if we would play this team 2 months from now, when they could be a lot stronger. But I think
and to be clear, it wasn't good either way, right, for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing goes for us as well, though. I mean, in 2 months' time, hopefully, we brought in a couple of new players. I mean, I think Tolga yesterday was insecure again.
Also, okay, stop. Hold on one second. I gotta intercede here and structure things a little. I'm gonna pull you in here, and now let's to bring some focus. Let's go back to the original format. Give me a high and a low light. Who's your highlight? I see you were sort of straddling around Tolga. Does he qualify as your highlight?
Tolga was decent, I think. Was definitely one of the best guys on the pitch. Thought Quaresma had a good first half, but didn't really show much in the second half. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I had any more real highlights apart from those. Janner was okay, I guess, but not.
Medel was an engine. Medel was an engine again.
Medel was,
and especially late in the match when we needed someone to fortify things.
Yeah, I guess Medel.
And I think maybe to accommodate for Enzo Rocco, because he's a Chilean compatriot, right? Maybe he wanted to help shore things up, but so he was very active at the end of that match.
Make sure that Beşiktaş didn't concede and that Rocco would get blamed again, basically, maybe. Yeah.
Exactly. And Rocco actually played fairly well in his very small window.
Yeah, didn't have much to do, I think. I think he had more work on the weekend 2 weeks ago against Akhisar when he came in for the last 15, 20 minutes. I think he had more to do then than he really had to do now. Partizan.
Well, and I'll tell you why I say he did pretty well here. And what I liked was that in a moment of very high stress, right? Because obviously Partizan felt they needed to score there to make something of this tie in general. But I think he showed poise. He had a few touches, like one-touch passes. He'd take the ball and do a feint, and he'd maybe, I think, dribbled it upfield a little bit and then distributed it all right. He actually showed composure and in the big spectrum here of the season, it's actually a fairly significant moment in that this is a do or die knockout situation, right, in a tournament. So it's I would not give him a highlight. He's not my man of the match, but anyway, as far as maybe settling people's nerves after that second performance of his where he wasn't so good starting. Better, I'd say.
And then for my low light, I think I have to go for Kyle Larin.
Yeah.
Just
I don't want to do it. I don't want you to do it.
Because the thing with Larin is, it's far more likely that he's going to come across and read our tweets. It's far more likely that he's going to listen to this podcast. Although unlikely, I think if any of the players are going to be listening to it, it's probably going to be the ones who are native English speakers. So if there's any fraction of a chance that he'd listen, I mean, I don't want to say this and I don't want to be, negative about the guy because he's young. I do think he has potential, but honestly,
he needs the confidence that we're not giving him right now.
And I think that, honestly, last season, at the end of the season, I saw a different Kyle Larin. I thought last season, at the end of the season, he was weighing on the defense of the opponents and he was causing them problems. And just what I've seen from him so far this season is he, apart from when he's playing against semi-professional players who have a full-time job off the pitch, he seems like a complete wet noodle. He doesn't seem to weigh on the defense. He's causing them very little problems. He's not involved in the game at all. He had a couple of moments yesterday, but
honestly, and let me moderate that negativity for a second and just say that those moments where he got into position and had a chance, like for example, where he tried to chip the guy, right? That confidence is nice. He went for it, fine. And maybe he was lacking the technical ability there. But I will say that had he pulled that off somehow, you could probably very easily imagine that could then sort of translate into a run of better form, increased confidence. Sure. All it might take is that one moment. And so I don't want what you're saying is incredibly accurate, and I'm not at all contradicting what you are saying. But what I do want to do for those who are listening is sort of moderate it by saying that one shouldn't throw him in the trash heap.
No,
one shouldn't.
For sure.
It's like I said, get carried away in that negativity, right? All it will take is that one moment, and 2 matches, and we'll be singing his praises again and talking about he's the future of the club's attack.
I think honestly, what will be best for Larin at this point in his career is getting loaned out to a team with a good coach, where he's going to get plenty of playing time, where he can hone his craft more. And you have to keep in mind that he's 23 or something, but he only just made his professional debut when he was 20 in the MLS. He's not been playing professional football for that long, and certainly not at European level. Because yes, you're playing against Partizan, you're playing against Lask, you're playing against Torshavn, you're not playing against Liverpool, you're not playing against Manchester City or Barcelona, Atletico Madrid. You're not playing against the European elite, but you're still playing European football, and that's still a significant difference, I think, from, with all due respect, to MLS.
Absolutely.
And I think for Larin right now, I think it's really. I think it would be so good for him to get loaned out for a year. I really would. And I don't want...
I want to weigh that. I'm going to moderate you again and say just like I would not commit to that yet because we haven't made any moves yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, but that's
you know what I'm saying?
That's purely
like,
from the club's perspective. But I'm talking about what's best for the player right now. I think
in a
for him,
vacuum,
at his
yeah.
age right now, he needs to play consistently. He needs to gain confidence. He needs to be scoring goals.
For sure.
I was watching a very interesting interview the other day, which got linked to us by I don't know if it was Özcan or Kartal, but they linked us a YouTube video on an interview with Alan Shearer, and he was talking about early on in his career how important it was when he was playing for England that he got a goal in that first match at the Euro 1996, and that really got him going. And I think for a striker, it really is that. You need to get that first goal to boost your confidence a little bit, because it's so important that you believe in yourself when you're taking a shot. You can see on a striker when, you say, I think it's important that he showed the confidence when he tried that chip, but I think that doesn't necessarily a sign of confidence.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily the right decision, which is a different conversation. But yeah, sure.
Because I mean, sometimes you can have this. So you see this often with strikers. They're trying to force something because they're not confident, because they know I haven't scored an X amount of games. It's weighing on them, especially with younger strikers like that, with younger players. And for me, Larin, honestly, this season he's been. I expect a lot more from him. I don't think that's necessarily fair on my part that I expect a lot more from him.
I mean, he played quite well at the end of the last season. He put
did.
those expectations on himself, which is not a bad thing, right? That's what you want to do.
We have to keep in mind that was with relatively no pressure on anymore because we were already out of the title race at that point. And basically there was, we knew we probably weren't going to get second or third, so there was very little pressure on him, on the team. It was just all about him just, getting accustomed a little bit. It was all about him just getting a little bit accustomed. And this season he hasn't shown that. I think it's really a shame that our whole striker position situation has dragged on for so long. Honestly, at this point, I think it will be so much better for him to get loaned out. And the thing is, I think if we, let's say Negredo stays and he becomes our first striker, I honestly think that Negredo, Umut Nair, and then like Wagner Love or Mustafa Bekmek or whatever, I think at this point, those guys are, I don't think Larin is any more effective than Mustafa Bekmek or Love are. I don't think, and we haven't seen Umut Nair yet, but honestly, I don't think that keeping him is necessarily a good thing. I think that Larin, for both him and in the long run for the club and him, it would be so much better if he got loaned out right now. Preferably to like an Eredivisie side, so he can really get some goals, and
see, and maybe that's where we differ. Like I have him firmly in that second spot behind Negredo at the moment. Like for me, it's so it's against my nature to be the negative one here. But gosh, Wagner Love for me does not have a role with this team. I can't discredit what he did for Alanyaspor. He managed to score a lot of goals in the same league that we're playing in, right? It doesn't make so much sense that he could just be so inept. But it is a fact that he has been, and I would argue that I would maybe say that at this point they're equally as inept if we're going to say Larin is fully inept, and I would still rather play a Larin who's that inept with the upside of him turning it around and becoming not as inept. Whereas with Love, I don't see, with his age, contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think I'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I really want us to offload Love as well. I don't really see any future for him at the club either. But my point was really just that, like,
I know, yeah,
think Love is quite ineffective, but I don't see any more. I don't see Laren being more effective than he is, and I think that. With Love, you know, you want to offload him permanently. For Laren, definitely, you know, I say keep him. You know, I do still think he has a bright future ahead of him, but I do think he needs at least 1, maybe even 2 years out on loan to further develop. I think that would do wonders for him. I really do believe still. I mean, a lot of people are writing him off already, and I think it's so unfair. And I'm not writing him off at all. I just don't think that at this point in time right now he is ready for being our first striker. And I think that Cenk Tosun was further along in his development, but when he came to us in the first place, so for him to be second or third choice for a while behind, you know, a big name striker for a while. That was fine because he could come in on the pitch and he could make the difference when needed, when called upon. I don't see that in Laren right now. I don't think that he's, you know, if we're looking for a goal, Negredo or whatever, or whoever we get instead, if we still get anyone, if they couldn't get the job done or they didn't have a great match or, you know, we're trying to get that goal. Right now, I don't feel confident that, you know, throwing Laren in is going to change much. Whereas, you know, when we had that with Cenk, I think we always had the feeling that, look, that something can happen now. He's such a natural goal scorer. He knows where to be. He doesn't let the pressure get to him. Cenk never let the pressure get to him, it felt like. And I think Laren, to an extent, maybe the pressure is getting a little bit on him. And I think that the pressure that is on his shoulders right now for, you know, temporarily being first choice, I think it's a lot to handle for a young player like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So to recap, Kaan has selected.
Reluctantly, kind of picked Tall Guy.
Tall Guy. All right. So you've picked Tall Guy as your highlight, and I to offer some difference there. I threw out Medel perhaps. Your low light was Kyle Laren. I mean, I would obviously concur as far as this match goes. I don't know if I'm quite ready to discard him yet, but that's also, you know, quite dependent for me on what we're doing in this market. I really think we could do to offload the wages of Negredo and Love, and I mean, but again, this is sort of idealistic, you know, and then bring in a replacement. But okay, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But so. Yes, in this match, I'd have to agree that Laren was a low light. But to throw something else out there, for the sake of conversation, all right. I'm conflicted in that I could say Tolga Zengin, again, not to harp too much, but he made some really goofy errors a couple times that just had me so scared, and there was one in the first half that very nearly directly led to a goal scored for them, and just gave me a little heart attack. And I will not live past the age of 60 if Tolga Zengin is our keeper this entire season. I guarantee it. It will degrade my health to that extent. But my other option, I'm finally recalling who my other low light might go to. So low light A, you know, 2A, if we're calling yours low light 1. Low light 2A was Tolga Zengin. 2B, and this is another one that, like, some of the diehards might not be too pleased with, but I have to go with Necip. Still just, like, kind of like a crash test dummy out there for the most part. He didn't do anything especially bad, but just his general clumsiness added so much more to the stress level that already existed because of all the other conditions out there. And just like, maybe since Laren was the definitive low light, both Tolga Zengin and Necip got kind of shout outs just because, as far as what they're doing to my health and my heart level and my ability to, like, live into my old age, those are the two guys that contributed probably the most. Because Laren did some, like, just generally didn't stand out. You know, he was not doing what he needed to do up front. But those guys were, like, there, and in the action and like actually frightening me regularly, like throughout the match. And so that's why shout out to you guys. Thanks for killing me faster.
Yeah, I the thing about Laren as well, I don't want to beat this like a dead horse or anything, but I also have to say in Laren's defense, and I think we said a couple of podcasts ago, we had plenty of matches last season where Cenk Tosun was not involved in the game, where he was on an island. We had
Negredo. Let's not forget how we lost faith in him in the first place.
And what was the reason for that? In our opinions, in our modest opinions, the fact that we lacked the number 10, right?
I was that. And you stole my thunder, Kaan. Exactly.
And look what we had on the pitch yesterday: Gary Medel, Necip Uysal, and Tolga.
Yeah, I was going to say that was exactly my point. And one of the main reasons why I kind of wanted to shift the focus to Necip and Tolga's like heart-inducing kind of negativity was that, again, like I don't want to harp on Laren because we're lacking a number 10. And then not only were we lacking a 10, but it's almost like we took a step back. We even took the kind of faux 10 we have in Ozan and just went with straight up like 3 defensive midfielders. And the reason I'm so confident in making Tolga a defensive midfielder is very superficial, but I've been, like I mentioned before, kind of enforcing time off for myself by playing a little FIFA of late. And Tolga is listed as a defensive midfielder in FIFA. So I feel like sort of.
I can tell you that means nothing, though.
Of course, absolutely.
As someone who works on those games, I can tell you that's related to the most common lineup a team plays. So
of course, I would absolutely have. I was going to preface it with that.
But I do have to agree with you. I think he's more of a defensive midfielder than he is anything else at this point because his offensive contributions aren't great.
This was his first goal in a competitive match, and I think it was like I saw something like 1,500 minutes or something like that. So like, we can't give him too much credit offensively, despite that match.
But yeah. Anyway, I think we talked enough about this game by now, right?
Agreed.
Do you have anything else that you want to get out there, or did you get all the points that you thought of over the long night?
I think that's it. Yeah, right. It's morning now, so okay. The night is done.
I just want to conclude basically with saying I feel very confident going into the home game that we will qualify for the Europa League group stages.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Fully agreed.
I have good news, breaking news. Loris Karius is coming to Istanbul, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wow, the
news just broke like 20 minutes ago, apparently, while we were recording. Let me just take a quick look. I'll read it. Okay.
Yeah.
Haber 1903 just put out this news that Loris Karius is expected in Istanbul either on Sunday or Monday. But most likely it will be Sunday, and he'll probably be in attendance for the game against Antalyaspor. So just to interject there with some breaking news. By the time you listen to this, it's probably not breaking news anymore, but for the time being it is.
For us it is. That's exciting.
Exactly.
And it actually ties in quite well to my low light there, which is Tolga Zengin, whose the lack of stability will hopefully be remedied very shortly. Although this does guarantee that at the very least we're going to get one more goal, one more match with Tolga Zengin in there, and I knowing Şenol Güneş, probably going to be more than just one. We're going to see him in there for a little while, I have a feeling.
I think it'll largely depend on how impressive Karius is during training. Because of course he has been doing the preseason with Liverpool, so it's not like he's not match fit. He's going to be fit. Yeah. He played friendlies and all that stuff, so he's going to be okay in that regard.
And he's coming off nearly a full season as a starter for Liverpool in the Premier League, so come on. I'm actually looking forward to our match, and here's my little serious plug for a moment before we do our conclusion. Against Antalyaspor on Sunday, Eastern Standard Time here in New York City, 2:45 p.m. After lunch, Americans, gringos, or also South American, Central American. Sorry, the whole Western Hemisphere here. But so for Kaan, I think that means you are like 8:45. For Turks, that's 9:45.
Yeah,
that's
9.
So
basically, in Belgium and Central Europe, whatever, it'll be 20:45 because we like to talk in the 24-hour clock.
Right.
And in Turkey, it'll be 21:45. So it's another late match. So I don't expect a packed house. Probably around 35,000 people, maybe, because I don't expect a full stadium for this game because of the fact that it's so late, especially for kids and stuff like that. It'll be like 12 by the time the match is over. It's on a Sunday. School is starting again soon. Is in Belgium? It's on the 3rd of September this year.
That sounds about right. I think that's it's got to be starting about now for American kids too.
So I don't know. I guess kids are getting back in, are supposed to get back in their rhythms and stuff like that. I guess it'll be similar to kids in Turkey. So
is there something you're looking for in this match, Kaan, specifically? A player?
No, not really. It's just another one.
I've got one. I've got one for you. It's a wild card, but we actually saw him very briefly today, and I'd be curious to see if we might see a little more of him. Guven Yalchin.
Nah, doubt it. I don't think so. I don't think with the guys, probably Babel, Lens being back, Negredo being back.
True, yeah.
I doubt we'll see any of Guven really.
I'd love to see another cameo of his off the bench. I'm curious. I am curious. I was actually gonna give a shout out to Şenol Güneş for taking a little bit of an experiment there. That's out of character for him. Maybe that's Guti's effect or Ilhan's effect. But anyway, Kaan, bring us out, man. Do me a service here. I am. It is almost 6 a.m. here in New York for those.
I think
exactly. Wall broken down.
We'll have an extensive episode to talk about Loris Karius later this week.
Yes.
We'll delve more into transfer rumors. Right now, there really isn't that much. There was this hoax Haberturk thing that Beşiktaş have agreed with Mario Gomez, but I think we can all say that Haberturk's reliability is close to zero. So I don't want to spend any time on that right now. So just it's the Loris Karius thing that's really concrete at the moment. There's rumblings still regarding Shinji Kagawa. We'll talk about all of that stuff in the next episode. This was just purely we're talking about the Partizan game, bringing you the latest on Loris Karius, which we have done. So there's just a couple more things I want to tell you basically. People, please send us your WhatsApp voice messages. Let us know your entries for our After the Beep segment. Let us know what you thought of the games. On any given match day, if you're in the stadium or you're not in the stadium, you're just at home, you want to basically do a cameo on the show, send us a 2 to 3 minute voice message, preferably. If you got really interesting stuff to say, you can go a little bit longer, that's fine. You can send it to +32 499 331684. That's our WhatsApp number. You can also find that on Twitter in the info to our podcast Twitter, which is @Eagles_podcast. You can of course follow Beşiktaş International @Beşiktaş_int. You can follow Sinan @Sir_Writes_a lot, and you can follow myself, Kaan Bayazit, @Razerian @Razerian RAZZERIAN. So that's how you can follow us on social media. Please give us your entries for the After the Beef segment. I think it's a really fun thing we're doing. So before I let Sinan take us out, I would very much like to urge you to wait until after the beep. So make sure to stay tuned, and Sinan, take us out.
Everyone, go Beşiktaş! Good night, good morning, wherever you are.
Hi everybody, I'm Aurelien from Geneva, Switzerland. So about the game from yesterday, I think we did a pretty good first half. We conceded I think a goal we shouldn't have conceded, considering Vida, it was almost Vida's fault. I think with 1-1 we have a lot of chances to go through, because we never lost at home against a European team since I think Bruges, and we are very good at home actually in Europe. So I guess it should be easy for us to not easier, but I can't see us losing at home. So I think definitely we will go to Europa League. So about Karius, I'm personally very happy about this move. My Liverpool friends, they laugh about me, but I think it's a really good move, because for once we got a 25 years old player who has a lot of talents. We saw it in Germany, and last season with Liverpool he played 19 games and had 10 clean sheets. So I think it's a very good performance in Premier League. So I guess we won actually by selling Fabry for 6 million, and now getting a young goalkeeper. If he's good, we could keep it like for the 7 next years. Group, it could be our next Muslera, but for us. So I think it's a good move, and I'm happy with it. Now I just hope that the board is gonna make another move, like for a 10 or striker. But I'm confident about the future and for the qualification in Europa League. Thanks.